And so we will be hearing from James Wilson about the implementation of the ERNs at UCL.
So my name is James Wilson. I'm based here at UCL. I'm head of Research Data Services, which is part of Advanced Research Computing, but it was part of ISD, our main IT services bit back in the day, and we were called Research IT Services at the time. And we already have an ERN. We have research launched and have been trying to support one for the last few years now. So hopefully you can learn a few lessons that we've been learning ourselves over a few years. So as Sammy was saying in a minute, you kind of need to know what it is, why you want an ERN in the first place. For us, it was very much about trying to implement that kind of typical research data lifecycle where you can at least provide your researchers with a series of systems, a suite of services that they can use, which will capture all sorts of information about their research and the data they're generating, and enable you to capture really sort of rich metadata, sort of an audit trail of all the things that have been going on to ultimately make it reusable, should the researcher want to make it reusable. That's a different subject of different workshop, I think. In a way that it can be confidently reused and you can reproduce the kind of science behind it. So that was very much our motivation. That wasn't the motivation we were trying to use to get our researchers to use it. We just figured, hey, we've talked to a lot of them, they want to use an ERN. So kind of a little bit sort of ulterior motives for us as data managers. We had been having various conversations with various people around the university about the possibilities of offering electronic lab notebooks for a little while. And in 2020, we actually did a survey. This was part of our larger survey to all the users of our services at the time. So this is not a representative survey of UCL researchers. People are already using the services that we provided as research IT services. So perhaps it's surprising, therefore, that there were so few people represented in the green bar there who are already using electronic lab, electronic research notebooks. These are largely IT literate people who know the kind of things we do, and they didn't use them very much. There were a few, 6% of our respondents that were already using one around the university. Lab archives, LabStep, RSpace, eLab, FTW, Evernote, and various other things cropped up. And what little we did find out about barriers to entry, a lot of people were just, their PIs were still using paper notebooks. They'd always used paper notebooks. They didn't really have that kind of push to kind of change how they were doing it. We also asked, hey, if we offered you a wonderful electronic research notebook, would you be interested in picking it up? And even though we provided almost no information about what it might actually be or look like, because we didn't know at that point, it got a lot of enthusiasm. Admittedly, this was during the year of lockdowns. So obviously, you know, working with paper lab notebooks does become a bit more of an issue than it did otherwise. But we thought, well, hey, look at this. We'd better get our skates on, because otherwise we're going to miss the moment. Now the time is right where we should actually do something about this. Don't worry if you didn't start your own ERNs back in 2020, because it's only actually now we're really starting to see an acceleration and uptake. But that's part of the sort of background to what we did. Also because we wanted to move fast, and my team were mostly tied down looking after existing services, we actually got a group of consultants in to do lots of workshopping with the research community at UCL, try and find out what it was that would really make it work for them and tempt them to use it. We did go through the classic kind of tender process. We got lists of all the must-haves, should-haves, could-haves, the whole Moscow prioritization system. After we got a good sense of what we were looking for, we did a request for information of the hundreds of vendors out there. We narrowed that down to a long list, got them to do a slightly more detailed kind of vendor process. We asked far more intricate questions about how people would actually do the various things they wanted to do. We shortlisted it down to 3, and then we set up user workshops so that they would try out the 3 different ones, try a set of exercises that we'd set for each of them, and give them scores, basically. and we would have a talk to them, but look at the scores that they got. So, oh, these are just some of the benefits we've identified that we've been through that already. So RSpace 1, it was a close run thing, and it actually came down to a long debate with our advisory group about what it was that we were really looking for. So lab archives, we were looking for a relatively generic ERN that could be adopted across different disciplines. Both lab archives and RSpace met a lot of the criteria for that. Our user testing group did include people from arts and humanities and various different disciplines, not just people from wet lab environments. They all, well, we found that people who weren't from those kind of wet lab research backgrounds weren't particularly taken with any of them though, because they're all really structured around the kind of principles of sort of wet lab experimental work. They use terminology that people in chemistry and biology and so forth are familiar with. And it was just a little bit off-putting. If you're an archaeologist and you see this kind of system, you immediately think, well, it's not really for me. But we did give it a go, we tried. We did favour RSpace in the end because it could link well to other software suites and other part of the other things that we were already running. So if you remember that life cycle diagram at the beginning, it kind of fitted in better with that kind of model. Had very good APIs because we wanted to be able to program integrations we had the technical team who could do that. They were very upfront about the avoidance of vendor lock-in. Other companies were a little bit coy about how we would get our data out of them again if they were to go bankrupt or we wanted to move. RSpace basically said, yeah, we'll just keep the database. I mean, it'd still be a bit of a problem to get people into a different kind of system again. We would have all the data and know all the relationships and everything else. And then constructive attitude to partnering, which they have maintained. We do have very regular meetings with them. They've open sourced all their software now, so we're talking to them about potentially sort of bidding for funding to do some co-development and lots of other things. So we don't regret that decision, I think. We went live beta in December 2021 because we still needed to set up some monitoring stuff at our end to make sure that if anything did fall over, we were aware of that ourselves before we got complaints from researchers coming in. And there was a number of other things about that. We didn't really set ourselves an actual measure for when we go out of beta. Don't make that mistake because people logged in, they saw it said beta on it. And I think it put a lot of people off really adopting it and using it, because once we finally removed the beta logo, adoption started to go up quite dramatically. It was slow at first. That's partly, to be honest, because we weren't doing much to promote it. We were busy being reorganised at that point, and we didn't put the time and resource into going out and trying to tell people about it that we could have done. We then went on a period where we recruited a team of data stewards, some of whom are in the room here today, who have had the opportunity to go and talk to research teams, research groups, and really sort of explain it a bit more and devote a bit more time to telling people why it's a good thing and they might want to give it a go. And you can see here this bottom line, it's a slightly weird KPI we use to measure that. It's basically people who've logged in at some point during the last 90 days and at least 40 documents that are in RSpace. So we know that these are people who are genuine, regular users who are really quite committed to using RSpace as an ERN. And partly because of the KPI, it will show a slightly slow adoption and take-up rate at first, because you need to get these 40 documents in there before you're going to register. But you can see that this rate has been accelerating quite dramatically. We're over 400 regular users now. UCL has about 6,000 research staff in total, about 6,000 research doctoral students. We've got over 2,000 now people who are registered, but not regular users, and we're starting to see that picking up. But of course, as I've mentioned, if you're an archaeologist, you're probably not going to want to use RSpace in its current state anyway. So, what are we up to? What are we going to be doing next? So we do have the regular feedback sessions with RSpace that I've mentioned. They've been very good in that they've run customized training. One of the things that I've learned involved in data management over the years is if you talk to people in one department using the examples from a different area, it won't seem at all relevant to them. And RSpace have been very good in that they've run customized training sessions at the departmental level so that we can focus on that. I mean, we get involved in doing a little bit of the training as well, but they've actually done a lot of it. We kind of divvy out the support responsibilities between us and RSpace themselves. We have a user group, and they come to us with their various requirements, concerns. We've been working on a number of things. One big plus that we started working on ages ago is working on external collaborators, so people can actually add their external collaborators to the notebooks that they are working on for a particular lab group. We had the rug pulled under us a little bit by our main IT services. We changed all the login processes, but we are, thanks a lot to Socrates' help. We're right on the cusp of it, but our user group have pointed out that actually there might be a bit of sensitivity because people could come in and they could see the inventory management system for a particular group, and that may give them clues and information that they shouldn't be able to see, and therefore sort of have these kind of privacy concerns. I think it's a little bit overblown, but this is an example of the kind of things I think that we were talking about earlier, that sometimes people can be very nervous that they're going to be scooped. If people from outside, if they want to have external collaborators, they don't want to see them seeing everything. They want very close control over the bits they can see and the bits they can't. So this is something perhaps to consider. We need to do more to help people create sort of default templates. At the moment, people log in, they see it, they don't know what to do, they don't know how to start. It can be a little bit intimidating when they first come in. So the user group have told us, well, you should go around and do a bit of hand-holding and help people set up these kind of SAP templates, all of these things, give them a little bit of a head start so they can get doing that. We would like to include, get some case studies of proper full life cycle data processing pipelines. So we're going around seeing people want to partner with us to really have those kind of automated full life cycle data workflows, including ERNs. So we can sort of demonstrate to researchers who are perhaps a bit skeptical just how you can use this in this way that's way more than just being an electronic version of a paper lab notebook. So we're looking for good case studies there, and we're also seeking various collaboration opportunities at the moment. But I think that's my bit.